Hello, we're out in the woods, me and Wilbur. He's on his lead, not because he can't be trusted to come back, but because he's old and he's got arthritis and he gets achy. And if I let him off his lead, he just runs and runs and runs and tires himself out, which is great, but then we need to get back to the car. So kind of need to manage him a little bit. But what I am doing is letting him lead the way a bit more than usual. He normally gets to pick the way anyway, to be honest, but he's brought me off track, well, off the main track today, so that's what we're doing. So anyway, lots of flies. It's been a busy week. I've done my full-time job. I've done 4 9-hour and a bit days, and then I had a freelance photography job this week as well, which for a project I really enjoy working with, Morecambe Bay Curriculum they're called. I've been doing photography with them for about 4 years now, maybe 3. Anyway, great project. Been doing photography with them, and I've photographed an event for them this week. So I've not done a huge amount of drawing, I've done a bit, but recently I've had a few requests for some paintings of a series that I used to do. Well, I still do them every now and then, just top them up. They've all sold out on my website recently, so I need to top them up because they do sell well. People like them, I like doing them. So this episode is going to be bits and pieces of those paintings and that project, and I hope you enjoy it. And we're going to carry on our lovely, slightly rainy week. Hello. So back home, and so this week I thought I'd talk to you about some pieces I've done in the past that I've kind of continued to do over the last few years, really. And it's one of the things. Normally, when you have an idea, you do it once, and then you develop it, and you develop it, and you develop it, and then eventually you get something you like. This is one of the only times I've done something and it's kind of been great at the start. I don't know how to move it on. I'm happy with it. So, and those things are, I don't really have a name for them. There's two different things within one topic here. So one is the kind of like watercolour outlines of the profiles of Lake District fells. So this is Helvellyn with striding edge leading up to Helvellyn, so the profile. So that's one. And the other is kind of above shots of lakes. So that's Windermere. It's an archival sleeve, but that's Windermere. So Lake District, so from above, the lakes from above. So we've got the fells. I did quite a few little subject, little study pieces on these. I did Windermere, that's the first one I did of Windermere. Cat bells. First one I held Helvellyn and Striding Edge. And I tried out the different lakes in the Lake District. I tried them in slightly different colours as well. So I did kind of develop the idea, I suppose. But so different lakes, and I found that Windermere worked the best. So that's the one I stuck with in terms of the lakes. I've sold tons of these. Each of them are unique as well. They're all painted. They're really hard to do prints of. I haven't yet found a way of printing these. I think the paper, the colour, the textures in them, they don't print well. So I've only ever sold originals. I've only ever sold originals of these, including the fells. And I'm able to sell them affordably as well, because they are quite relatively quick to do. and I've found a way of making them easier to do by order as well. So I do usually have a couple of them available on my website. They have all sold out quite recently, so I need to top up that. So I need to make a sort of new batch of everything to sell on the website, but I am able to make these to order quite quickly, and I am going to do that today. Someone has asked for one. I don't have the size they wanted. I've got a couple of A3s, and I try and keep one of each back as well, just so I've got a reference. So that's why I've done that's the big one of Grasmere. Grasmere I think works quite well. Windermere and Grasmere are the two lakes that work well. And I recently sold a Grasmere and I put custom text on it. So I'll show you that. Sorry, I'll show you that too. I did that a couple of weeks ago though. So we've got some of the mountain ones. Like I say, these are ones that I've kept back because that's Skiddaw and the Helvellyn. I've done these in all sorts of sizes. I've done them A1, like enormous. I've done them A6, I've done them really small, and then everything in between. So they're easy to scale. They're fun to do. I like doing them, and I think they look really effective on the white backgrounds. So today I'm going to show you. I'm going to do a Windermere in A4 because I didn't have the size the person wanted, and I'm also going to show you the custom Grasmere one I did, which I did a few weeks ago, and I did it and I filmed it in anticipation of it being that week's video. So we're talking like a couple of weeks ago now, and I thought, oh great, this can be this week's video. And then I finished it and it was dated and it had the names of the people that it was being gifted to on it. So this was bought as a gift with custom names and dates on it. And I did it and I thought, great, I can show you this week. And then realised as I painted the date on it, I probably can't show you this week because it's going to be a gift for someone else. And the date on it wasn't until last weekend. So I just sort of realised, oh wait, I can't show you this until the person has been gifted it. Really, it's unlikely that the person would have seen the video. I don't know the people it went to, but just in case, I didn't want to publish something that was being gifted to someone way before it had gone to them, so I can show you that now. So because I do so many of these, what I've done is I've created several templates that I use. So this is tracing paper, the lake is traced onto it, and I do this because obviously I want the outline to be super accurate, and it needs to be quite a nice crisp outline as well, so I don't want to be faffing around drawing it over and over again and rubbing it out and whatnot over and over again. So for each sort of size and pattern, I've got a template that I can just go over. Now this is just, like I say, it's on tracing paper. The other side of it has also got thick pencil drawn onto it. So as I'm drawing over it, it's transferring the pencil on one side to the paper on the other. And I use watercolour paper for these as well, and it's quite heavy, quite thick watercolour paper to make sure that it stays quite nice and rigid. Obviously when I do bigger sizes, watercolour paper is quite expensive. So the bigger the size, the more price, the more it costs. And if you want to do an A1 watercolour, then you have to buy a sheet of A1 watercolour paper. So obviously that's quite expensive, so it does increase the cost quite a lot. Now, I have done a couple on just normal paper, so not even paper that I'd use for acrylic paintings, just quite sort of, you know, just normal paper, and it does work out okay sometimes, but the paper splits, I found, because what I'm about to do is I'm about to introduce quite a lot of water to this paper, and the watercolour paper can handle it because it sponges it up. So normal paper can't handle it so well, and it stretches the paper, and as it stretches the paper where it's more wet, it rips, which is why I use the watercolour paper. So you can see now I've got the outline nice and centre, and again I've been able to save time on that because of the tracing, which helps keeps the cost down as well, saving time. Now I've got my watercolour paints here. Now this palette is pretty much entirely used for these watercolours for the mountains and for the lakes, because I use the same colour palette for every single one. It's got a series of blues, it's got a couple of greens, a white, some yellows, which don't really get used on these very often. Sometimes I'll add them into the fells, but not into the lakes. But this palette is pretty much entirely for these lakes and mountain watercolours. I've also got my brushes, and these are not watercolour specialist brushes. These are just, well, normal, but they're for acrylics probably, really, but just normal brushes. And I use these, they do what I want. I found that they just work with the paint best. So, got a jar. You can probably tell I use this jar for this a lot. That's why it's blue. And what I do is, you get your brush, you put quite a lot of water on your brush, make sure it's not going to run, and then I just go around the inside line of the lake with water. So now that I've gone around the outside, I've also flooded the middle, so it's nice and wet. So watercolour paper can handle it, it can handle the water that I've added. And you'll keep it there for a little while without drying too quickly. And now what it is, and you have to be careful here, because if you spill it, obviously part of the impact of these paintings is that it's a striking colour on its own. And if you spill the paint, not in the area you want it to be, it ruins it. So you've got to be careful. So again, with your brush, I've got a kind of mixture of the blues here, blues and greens. I kind of mixed together in this top part here to make this slightly different blue, and what I do is I fill my brush up with that, and then you just come back to the painting and just again working in from the edges, just let your brush flood the area. You don't need to apply any pressure, it's literally just touching the edges and I'm filling it in. And I don't just stick to the one colour in this bit, so I'll add a bit more of the darker blue for an area and go in with that. And then for another part I'll go back and add in a bit of the green. And just move it up. And if the area does start to dry out a bit, you can just go in and add a bit more water just to allow it to move around. Okay, so hopefully you can see now that I've got the first layer down. I've got quite a nice mix of colours. I've got some greeny blues, I've got some darker blues, some lighter blues, and what I'm going to do now is just let this dry. And what that does is just it allows the paint to settle, dry in the colour that it's going to look when it's finished. It allows the paper to just smooth out again, and then I'll come back to it and add another couple of layers. So I'll add another layer, let it dry again, add another layer, and then just do a little bit of detail if needed. Okay, so that's it, we're done. It looks quite dark here, but it's I'll try and brighten up a bit so you guys can see it better. But we've got a good amount of blues in there, we've got some greens. Really happy with how the lines came out. So I'm going to get a few more of these done throughout the week and restock them on my website. They do tend to sell out quite fast, but I'll put it on my Instagram when I've restocked, so it's Racheljharveyart on Instagram. I'll pop it on there, I'll let you know in next week's video as well, and I'll try and keep up with these because obviously people like them. I also need to make money, and people want to buy them, which is nice. So if you're interested in a custom one, like the one that I did with the writing and the date on, that was a wedding present for someone. If you are interested in a custom one, get in touch and we can do that. I do have to charge a little bit more just because it takes up a little bit of time, but I do try and keep my costs as low as possible with that. People have bought these for birthdays, for weddings, for all sorts. I've done a series over Valentine's Day as well where I've written "I like you" on the bottom and stuff like that, and on the fell ones "I fell for you," and they've I normally just do them for Valentine's Day, but again, if you want one, we can customise them, we can put whatever you want on there. Also, I've been messing around with the camera a bit this week, so you might notice I'm a bit in and out of focus because I took autofocus off because you could just hear the camera motor running the whole time. So anyway, that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next week.